presentation on Givology. Okay, we're just going to talk about today a general overview of what we see as Givology's strengths and weaknesses right now, a proposed new structural model, and then a new proactive partnership strategy that Givology could implement right now. Okay. So our goal is to analyze Givology's current operations and macro strategy, especially in regards to forming partnerships with local NGOs and provide feedback on the strategy. And so while we think the mission is really laudable, it's also inefficient. And we think these inefficiencies can be mitigated by adopting what we call a two-pronged structure for Givology. So we think Givology is a really laudable mission. You seek to incorporate the best of micro-level nonprofit strategies, just focusing on individuals, but you have a global focus, and since you use the internet, you're really reducing transaction costs. And since you're networking with entrepreneurs in the country, you avoid a lot of the problems that large-scale non-governmental organizations have due to intransigence on the part of government and due to high staff costs. And we really, we think your feedback system idea is really impressive and very novel. But you have a flawed structure right now because a lot of your projects are very short-term and they're also very ad hoc. There doesn't seem to be a lot of direction. And some of your connections to your nonprofits are rather shaky or temporary, and we think your verification system is inadequate as it is. We think, like you said, your focus on entrepreneurial NGOs is really great, but just the execution is poor. I cover this, you avoid the bureaucratic problems of larger, more traditional NGOs, but you also appear to have expanded too quickly, since you just seem to be taking on a lot of partners and adopting a lot of projects without a lot of verification. And here's our proposed structure. So what we want to do is divide Givology into a microside and a macroside. The microside would still focus on small-scale donations and pretty much be like what Givology is now, and that sort of keeps really with the mission. While the macroside would focus on attracting larger donations, specifically from corporations and philanthropic organizations and trusts. And then these donors could either decide to break those up into small-scale donations, which would go to individual students, sort of like they do now, but instead of one person giving $100, a corporation might give 1,000. It would be split up into 10 students, or they could be retained for large-scale needs by the NGO, like the expansion project or public library. Okay, so discuss microside. It would sort of mirror the current format, but we think it could be used as a vetting mechanism so that NGOs that apply to Givology would first be placed on the microside, and then if they seem to be doing a really good job, they could move to the macro side, and they would have an incentive to do that because then they would have access to a larger pool of funding. So that would really encourage them to meet all of Givology standards in terms of feedback. And then on the macro side, you have long-run support because these would be partnerships that would last over many years, and they would the macro would also provide sustainability to your NGO partners in the countries. And like I said, you have the larger nation. You can divide it up, which mirrors the current system that keeps the Givology mission, or it could go to large-scale projects, which also ties into the Givology mission, but at the same time, it's not the primary focus. Right. And so what we think this would also do is Givology would sort of become an intermediary, almost an information database, and that it would find and vet, like boutique NGOs in these countries, and then build a database of them, and then reach out to corporations and philanthropies, which would, are looking for small NGOs to invest in and connect these to. And the reason a lot of this doesn't happen now is because a philanthropy isn't going to just trust thousands of dollars to a small NGO, even if that small NGO might be more efficient, just because they don't have the same name recognition as, say, like the International Red Cross. But at the same time, these boutique NGOs are usually more efficient because they don't face a lot of the problems that large-scale NGOs do in terms of setting up in countries, and due to government fears of needed colonialism, specifically in Africa. And so we think the two-pronged strategy matches your mission, allows for expansion, and increases accountability.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the proactive partnership strategy and some of the recommended best practices that would go along with that we think that Givology should adopt. And some of this will relate a little bit back to more of this macro side that we were talking about, because that's sort of the newer aspect that we'd be adding on. And so currently we sort of feel as though Givology's approach to obtaining funds is somewhat passive. I mean, in the business plan, it really doesn't outline any way in which Givology tries to solicit donations. The website, is very encouraging for people to, take on this one individual and really create a personal connection with them. But aside from these event-based sort of fundraisers that the national chapter seems to hold, we really don't see much in the way of going out and trying to get people and to form partnerships. And so, something else we noticed historically in working on a lot of projects, individual donors are historically volatile. And so you may get, sort of a one-time donation. It's very ephemeral in nature, and you're not really going to have a longer lasting relationship with the partner. And so, to expand, we sort of feel that we want to complement, sort of, as Taylor was talking about, not get rid of the microsite, but in this macrosite, it's to complement what we have already, and to try and have more consistent donations and funding, something that's longer term if you're partnering with a corporation, and something that's larger in contribution. And so, sort of the methodology to go along with that is that right now there's sort of a lot of materials all sort of scattered around, and you have the stories of the children online, and you can sort of look through all of that. But if there could be sort of a streamlined pitch book put together that could be used to represent Givology in sort of working to attract corporations or small businesses, and this can be done on the national chapter level or within each individual chapter around the country. And so, also we feel that there could be a more aggressive approach to the NGO's partnerships, the field partnerships. And so currently it says in the business plan that most partnerships sort of form as a result of the eligible nonprofit organization taking their own initiative to contact Givology and fill out a partner form. And so we feel that this in some way alienates a lot of entrepreneurs or NGOs or small grassroots organizations who really maybe don't know what Givology is. I mean, how could, if they really are in need, they probably maybe aren't aware of these opportunities. So we feel that there's a lot of great need where there could be more social impact that's being missed. So we feel like Givology should conduct research to seek out and attempt to form partnerships with some of the people they value to be most in need. So how do you do that? Well, currently Givology has a fellows program that already goes abroad, and so this could be integrated into that fellows program so that while the fellows are over there, they really look into sort of, who are these smaller entrepreneurs that are trying to make change happen, but that probably don't know about us and that we can reach out to, so that Givology is taking more of the initiative to find people that need the most help. And so, as far as where we want to focus this help, we feel that African countries, specifically sub-Saharan, is really where the need is greatest. I mean, we don't think that this should be the primary, the only focus, but that it should be the primary focus. And so we sort of disagree with one of the teams, the first team that went, because we feel that, if the government is already willing to work and make change, then in some sense that isn't where the greatest need is. The greatest need is where the government is hostile, unwilling to take you in, unwilling to let you help. And so we really want to target hostile governments in sub-Saharan Africa, and also where there's these fears of neocolonialism, so that multinational